it. All right. This is our weekly all hands for September 11th, 2024, where we're going to sync up on work going on around the org, eliminate blockers, and try to prioritize the work that we need to do. Our lag metrics this week, we have plus $9 in transaction volume, takes us to 117.40. And our lead metrics, 2 new users. Actually, those are fake 2 new users, though it's me and our Kusti testing for the bug that we had. And turns out it isn't a bug. 4 communities deployed. The last couple of weeks I've been writing down 3, but it actually is 4 because we added pool together a couple of weeks ago, and I forgot to put those in. And 8 returning users and 0.01347 ETH in the multi-sig. Thanks, Tom, for putting over that base builds funds into the multi-sig. Appreciate that. Team-wide announcements, and maybe it's something, NF Thinker, you want to talk about yourself?
Hey, yeah. So as everybody has kind of been aware of, I've been sort of here, there, and not really much here recently. Attention is definitely divided. Lynx and I had a bit of a chat yesterday in terms of forward looking. What's the forecast for my participation here? And I'm taking a bit of a step back, just to let everybody know. I'm still going to be available. I'll still be on the documents. I'll still be on the multisig, and I'll still be able to help steer things when needed. But I'm just not going to be as active. You will see me here in the meetings as much as I can make them, but I don't have a lot of time to dedicate specifically to the project, just as I try and direct my own life, you could say, both family and professional, keeping things going, moving in the right direction, trying not to burn out completely, because I did have a bit of a burnout in July, August, and gave up all my other positions. So now it's just simply BCard that I'm active in the Web3 space. But yeah, I will be around, and you'll definitely see me, and I will be somewhat active, but just not participating in a very active way. So I'm assuming that's what you meant, Lynx, and that's my announcement.
Exactly. It was, and I just wanted to bring it up as a bit of a talking point, because I think it's really important. Like, burnout in the space is kind of endemic, right? Like, it happens, and I would say that it's like normal in just everyday culture, but in Web3 it feels even worse. And so I think it's really important that all of us, when we're talking about self-sovereignty, yes, is being able to take care of yourself, but it's not just being able to take care of yourself in a financial perspective. It's also from a health perspective as well, and from just like a mental health perspective. I ultimately think that what we're trying to create is a place where people's work matches the change they want to see in the world. And it's really easy. On one hand, it's great to be working in that way, but on another hand, it's really easy to kind of overwork yourself when you're really passionate about what you're doing. So I think that it behooves all of us, every single one of us, to take some time to reflect and just create the tools for ourselves to be able to work sustainably over the long term, on the things that we believe are our purposes. And I also think that just taking some time and taking a step back, I think everyone should be able to do that, and it's not always possible in like the quote unquote real world, or let's call it trad work. So ultimately, this is the kind of behavior that we're trying to facilitate here. So, if you are also feeling overwhelmed or anything like that, don't do it alone. Reach out, take some time, and I appreciate NF Thinker for all the things that you do, and also just your value is in being, not in just the things that you do. So I really appreciate you just being here and explaining to everyone what you're all about.
Of course.
I want to second that as well and say thanks, of course, for everything that you've done, Ethnic, and all the energy you're able to put forward. I always cite you as sort of the front-facing connector of Web3, and so I was afraid that with the you're interfacing with so many projects and the negative sentiment is sort of generally pervasive. Maybe it hit you a little harder than everybody else. So appreciate what you need to do, of course.
Yeah, and I think another. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna just double down on what you were saying there. Being involved in so many Web3 projects, it does add up. It does take its toll, and that's one of the things that I was really being challenged with, especially running the shapeshift spaces on a weekly basis, trying to keep up with all the new narratives, and it just made me realize there's so much stuff. I'm never going to be able to keep my finger on the pulse of absolutely everything, and it was stressing me out to no belief. So just taking a step back and trying to clear my mind, and maybe find a new approach to some existing problems that we have might be refreshing.
Nice. I appreciate that. Another thing I wanted to say as well is ultimately one of my goals here at BCard is to create a space where people can do exactly what NFThink are doing. I don't think we're quite there yet, right? We haven't created the organization of the future yet, but to create it, we have to act like it right now in this moment. And so I really do think that it's something that we should keep in mind, is that that's also the kind of organization we're trying to build, an organization where people can step in and step out as they want and need. So appreciate that as well. I also dropped a little article in the chat. This is one that I wrote when I noticed a lot of people at Bankless DAO were working unsustainably. And so I think it's good to reread every once in a while. I also myself reread it every once in a while because I need that reminder as well. So if you find yourself overwhelmed, or even if you don't, go ahead and take a look at that article, Working Sustainably. And there's some tools in there that might help you work sustainably as you need it. All right. One consequence of NFThinker taking a step back is I was thinking of, on the multi-sig side, to do something that's been overdue, reducing the multi-sig to a 2-3. Only the directors of the foundation would be on it. That would include myself, NFThinker, and Samantha Marin. And we'll go into it in a discussion a little bit lower down on the list. But any quick thoughts on that? Is there any anyone surprised at that, or? Feel free to take it in. It's not something that we need to figure it all out right now, but it's something that I was thinking about, and this is an opportunity for us to execute on it. On the milestone perspective, on the product side, and I do think that we're going to be updating these milestones this season. I haven't quite figured out what yet, but in general, we still do want 1,000 weekly transacting users, although first we need 10, and then we need 100, and then we need 1,000. So I would say that we probably need to narrow our focus in on this, but the sign-up bug that I was worried about, it's not a bug. Sign-ups are possible. We did find a couple other bugs, but they are in the process of being fixed right now. So just wanted to, because I brought it up last week, close the loop and just say it is not a bug. We did test it and it did work. In terms of digital first cards, we've told Transcard that they do not need to send cards for a community program. So that's a configuration that they can do on their end. They should be getting back to me and telling me when that happens. Note that the Nouns card will not be affected. So the Nouns card, they will still continue to get their physical cards, but we're still going to try to encourage every user to try to fund their card and put it on their Apple Pay or Google Wallet immediately. So even though they will be getting a physical card, we still want to get that digital card going. And we still need to change the email. I'm hoping that I can get that done by the end of the week. So basically, when the user signs up for a card, they get an email saying there'll be a physical card. I just need to adjust that email so that it works for the digital first as well. In terms of the August rewards, last thing I need to do is send an email to users. I did extract emails of people who got rewards. I'll probably send it to our whole list though, just because I think it is a good chance to re-engage users who maybe have a card but haven't been using it. But just that like process of running a single query to get an email address from an admin, we purposefully separate those two pieces of information. So I spent some work on that to get it last night, and I'll probably create a function for it as well as an article in our Notion, so that Tom, if you need it, you can also do it as well. In terms of the hire card, I checked back in with Six, our community liaison from Hire, and it is a decentralized community, but he didn't answer back. I think we could just release it, to be honest, and then start talking about how we can potentially promote it with him. So Tom, whenever that's ready to, whenever the next release is, we don't have to wait on Hire or anything.
Sounds good. I think that when it hits production, it should be ready, and we can schedule that push whenever it makes sense.
Okay, cool. We also need to figure out if and how we give out our Nouns Award in addition to NOGs. This is something I want to talk about with you, Tom, and potentially you, NF Thinker, as well, if you feel like talking about it. But yeah, I'll leave that for another time. In terms of content funnel, Rainus, and I don't see Coffee Crusher, but Rainus, how's this going? You're muted, Rainus. Okay, there you go. I still can't hear you. Can anyone else hear Rainus?
Nope, I can't hear him.
Maybe hop back in, Rainus. Okay, he hopped off, I guess. I think you might have to leave the... Oh, there, now I can hear you.
Okay, amazing. Yes, last week we announced the origin, and now Coffee is preparing a script for pull together email, and as far as I know, Andy has been editing a video that he will post this week. And myself, I've been working on the pitch deck. By the way, Links, I would love a one-on-one about the pitch deck. I have some knowledge blockers of what to include, what to not include, and if it's correct or not correct questions about the information that I'm adding to the pitch deck.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. If you send it over to me, I'll take a look. I plan on working on some talking points for OMF today as well. So I'll look at that at the same time if you like.
All right.
Yeah, so in general, I was kind of thinking of squishing the community and partnerships into one work stream, if that makes sense. I know, Rainus, you're kind of working on both, but in general, this idea of getting users, communities, and getting users through communities, it feels like it's like potentially the same stream of work in some ways. So I was thinking of squishing those two together. Does that make sense to everyone?
It does make sense to me, since I'm sitting on two chairs right now. It would be nice to be sitting on one.
Okay, great. I'll bring it up again tomorrow at the communication meet. But in terms of our community funnel right now, we have a meeting with OMF tomorrow, which we're going to prep some talking points. I'm also trying to set up a meeting with mindfulness through play. One thing I was speaking with NF Thinker about yesterday, which I think I've kind of alluded to in the past, is that I think that while it's like we have some crypto communities on there, we have Origin, we have Nouns, we have Hire, we have Pool Together. These are good communities for us to kind of explore with. Like I think I'm going to try to drill down a little bit more with these communities and see how I can try to bootstrap usage within these communities. And then I also wanted to try a couple of different communities which are a little more outside of the crypto space. So both Mindfulness Through Play and OMF, they are what I would describe as crypto curious communities. In general, when you kind of stack us up, and CryptoDad and I were doing a little bit of like value propositioning on Friday last week, when you stack us up against crypto credit cards and individual rewards, you start to give users this idea that we're competing with crypto cards, which we're really not. But then when you look at what we can offer in the affinity card market versus like other kinds of affinity cards, like the Susan B. Komen Foundation and stuff like that. For communities, BCard actually has a couple of key values that just don't exist in those other spaces. So, for instance, if you want an affinity card, basically you have to have something like 20,000 users, and you have to have like a bunch of upfront cash, like tens of thousands of dollars upfront, to get some of these co-branded co-branded affinity cards. So if you look at BCard, which is like kind of like a lower cost alternative, it really democratizes access. That is, it reduces, it increases the amount of communities for whom affinity cards could work to smaller communities. And so this is something that I want to pull that thread a little bit while we're still going to be doing things crypto related with these groups. We hope. We want to see if there's higher affinity for what we're doing. Anyways, that's why I'm looking at this OMF stuff. And again, this is stuff that really should be going in the strategy doc. And I just haven't had time to get through it. But CryptoDad, Christy, and I have been having these chats in the ops meet. So definitely something that we're going to be working on. Well, at least I'll be trying to document. But in the meantime, also the stream of work that we're doing. I just wanted to explain it to everyone so that you kind of understand where my head's at. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds good to me. I think that it's great to sort of branch out beyond sort of the general core of the crypto communities, because the offerings that we're offering can sort of be a tie-in, for current in real life programs that exist, and using crypto rails to do so may or may not be important to the people, but it certainly gives us an advantage. I agree.
All right. And we could talk about more as we go, but in general, let's get through our tactical part. Raise 200K, I have applied for the Octant Accelerator. They ended up having a very long application process, and I've been poking the Octant community a little bit because I really think that it would be a good, like alignment for us together. So, for instance, they are doing a sustainable. They're creating like a sustainable grants for builders program, and we're trying to also create sustainable funding for our communities as well. So I do think that it could be something that could be useful. Anyways, so I applied for that. I also as well saw that Tom had put another part of our base grant in the multi-sig. So thanks for that, Tom. I appreciate that. And in terms of website updates, well, I don't see Andy here. Reynes, do you know?
Yes, we are in a perpetual conflict blocker where Andy is saying to Bobo that everything is done except for the adding of a footer. He will add the footer, and Bobo is saying, and Andy says, like, you can start building while he's adding the footer because it's going to be done this week. And Bobo is saying that he will start when everything is finished from Andy's side. And so we are waiting for that situation to resolve. And Andy said that he's going to just fix it up so it's fully done and give it to Bobo this week. So we'll get that resolved. It was funny.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, Reynes. All right, let's pop into our task perspective on Asana now. Roll salaries. We will go ahead and duplicate this task, and I forget what week it is. ISO week 37. All right. Okay, and so we have 34, 35, 36, and we probably needed the one for 36, huh? Okay. So duplicate this. Week 36. Sorry for this administrative stuff. Okay, great. And so week 34 and 35 looks like this makes sense. Yep. Okay. And 34. So this was a strange one, I guess, because I wasn't here. But basically, second last week of August, did Tom and Rainis, did you guys put in 5 hours?
Yes.
That week I am a no.
Okay. I am also no on 34 and 35. 36, however, I did put in some time. Rainis, did you put in 5 hours the week before last? Rainis, can you hear me?
Sorry, there's construction around me. I didn't hear.
Did you put in 5 hours last week and the week before?
3 weeks ago. Hopefully, yes. Probably, yes. I don't.
No, last week and the week before, not 3 weeks. Last week and the week before.
Oh, well, I try to do it every week, so most likely, yes. I don't
Okay, cool.
remember because I didn't
Sounds
write
good.
it down.
And what about you, Tom?
That's yes for those two.
All right. And a thinker, did you put in that time?
No, definitely not 5 hours. I put in a bit, but not 5 hours.
Okay, great. And I will ask Coffee Crusher a little bit later. All right, so I'll put that into the inbox for now. Oop. Let's put that over here, and I'll work on that a little bit later. Updates to Nouns community. This project hasn't been started yet, but this is exactly what I was saying, like getting the Nouns community to accrue nouns. This is something I really want to work on in terms of communication, and so that's what we need to release in our product as well. Actually, I think like the least conflict way to do this is essentially to have a second nouns community in the selector. Tom, is this possible? I mean, it feels like the easiest way to do this, but Tom, is this possible to just have a second nouns in the list?
Yeah, anything's possible for sure. I always say it all just depends on whatever you think you want to achieve for sure. I mean, I could see us looking at multiple rewards for a single community as an option just for experimentation as well. But certainly forking a community to a new one is no biggie for sure.
And I think, or do you think that this is going to be okay from like, I mean, so, you know, Dom has been kind of inactive, but I know that you're really hesitant to step away from the Nogs. So, I mean, one of the options is to kind of just eliminate Nogs from our list and then change it to just nouns. But I feel like that's something you said we shouldn't do.
Yeah, I think probably giving people the choice is the best option. And then, unfortunate for Dom that he's going to be in direct competition with nouns. But we didn't necessarily have any exclusive agreements with them in the same way that they didn't necessarily have any exclusive agreements with us. So, as you had mentioned before, you know, they can go ahead and get another community card going with some other card operator. And in that same sense, we are free to offer anything. Like, we did the card design, we deployed the platform. If we want to give people a choice between the two different tokens, then that would be great. I mean, ideally, we would be able to offer them double tokens, you know, give them nouns and nogs, but we do have the agreement with nogs that we will buy and burn nogs with their revenue. So
we can't.
So we can't. Yeah, exactly. Tokens, yeah. So we can't unless we were to be granted some nouns tokens. I don't see that happening.
Okay. All right.
Cool. I think that we could easily say to Dom, look, we're just going to offer a second option here and see how it goes.
Cool. Sounds good. And Tom, I would love to pair code adding a new community because I tried to do it while you were away and I ran into a wall. So maybe I'll poke you a little bit later to see how we can do that together. Maybe.
Yeah, we can definitely chat about it. I don't know if you read through. I had a long strategy document that I dug into and sort of shared just in the Notion. But I think in it I outline sort of a path forward to where I see us having communities launchable without needing any software pushes. So I think I'd like to move towards that if we're working on some improvements.
Yes, absolutely. I think that'd be great. All right, the Sunny Awards. I think they come out this Sunday. To follow up, let's put it in. Needs feedback. But in general, the Sunny Awards are just like an optimism award show, I guess. We'll see how it goes. I didn't really put too much effort into it. I'm not really even sure of the criteria, but maybe I'll look into that when I can. And the Octant Accelerator, I am also going to be poking Octant about this. So I will. I've applied, but then poke people from Octant about our application. Okay. All right, cool. So this is on me as well. So those are things in the inbox. This I will put into, well, I'll put into this week because I'll probably do some work on it. But in general, um, add new community, which okay. And so this is, we'll have to go into the inbox again. We'll talk about this another time after I spec it out for us. And then going down to our milestones again, we're going to be updating that. Updates announced community will go to the very bottom. For now, update app to use API, generate virtual card delivery. Again, we're waiting for Transcard. I'm going to take this off of the all team projects because it's something that Transcard wanted more than us. But I will leave this in the product weekly and pull it up as we need it. User email update for August 2029. I think this was already sent. Is that correct? Pretty sure this was sent with the origin information. Is that correct, Rainus? Oh, can you guys not hear me? I can't hear anyone. Maybe I better hop off and hop back
I got
on.
you, Link.
I can
you can
hear
hear
you.
me?
I didn't even realize I was unmuted that whole time. Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
Can't hear Rainus in terms of whether or not that
I'm pretty sure it went out.
BCard. Yeah, there's a email that was sent on the 4th of September.
Okay. Great. In terms of pool together and hire is going to go to prod, so I'll leave it into this week. Pool together, we actually need to update. So we had a little contest with them to change the card. So we have new card art, which I will download and update. New card art to add. We'll upload. And so that's something that needs to happen pretty soon. But I will work on. I will put all the assets where we need them. Hire tree gen. I think that we're going to be pretty much removing. Like this is something that we could put in partnerships, but it's not really happening in terms of.
Well, he had said that he wanted to go forward on that, and I was just waiting on some additional information regarding the token contract. But yeah, he said that he wants to award. He wants to burn mgrow, which is a token that represents each mgrow represents one tree. So essentially, if somebody spends X amount of money, that purchases one mgrow, which means that they have planted X amount of trees. He's not the quickest at getting back to DMs, so we'll just see how that goes. But it's still in the wings, just not quite ready yet. Just needs some contract information, etc.
Okay, cool. So I'll leave it in there. Move to Apple Pay, Google Pay for community card. I would say that this is kind of now the higher priority thing. So what I really need to do is update the onboarding email this week, and then this task will probably be done as soon as Transcard confirms that they're going to stop physical cards for our community card. Update the strategy document is up here as well. Update the website we talked about. Video content. Anything new on the video content front?
I know Andy's preparing a video for this week. Had a call with him on Sunday. He had filmed it, so he's editing right now. So we might see something very soon.
Awesome. Thanks for that. And last week, our Christy actually did the August cash flow. Do you want to share some high level stuff from that? Maybe just in let's say a three line update from the cash flow, our Christy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess if you give me a second, I'd have to find it
Okay, sure. Yeah.
on my desktop.
He's always like not really sure
All
what
right.
he's doing.
Hey, Drost. You're unmuted. I'm not sure if you knew that. Here's he did not. Okay. I will duplicate this as well for SIP 2024. All right. So when you're ready, just let me know, Arkisti. And in the meantime, I'll go back to all team projects. Basically, I don't think we have anything else on the list. Anything else that people are working on that we should add to this list? Okay. I know that there's some stuff that we're working on the product side that I could probably cross-post and stuff. I'll try to take a look at this for the next week's meeting. But in the meantime, we can get to what did we ship last week? So last week I cleared the support pipeline. I submitted an application for Octane Accelerator. I figured out duplicate emails for the email import into Paragraph. And I figured out how to get the email from the admin IDs. I met with Zudi Bear about next steps on the user research side. I met with CryptoDad for a value proposition, and CryptoDad created a mirror board to help us go through this. Arkusi did cash flow updates for August, although there wasn't much change. Tom diagnosed a mysterious transaction. It was a partial pre-auth that had aged off 5 months after the initial transaction. Interesting that those kinds of things come up. iOS 18 beta surfaced a bug, so these were all updated and set to appropriate pixel dimensions. Nice. Diagnosed a transaction that hit my test card, indicated we had performed a successful ACH debit. This should not be allowed. Turned out it was a PayPal integration with the vendor. Interesting. Wow. Okay. Yeah, so there's something that we should not be allowed to do. There's a bunch of things that we shouldn't have been allowed to do that were apparently allowed. Anyways, we shall see. Thanks for looking into those, Tom. Anything else that anyone shipped last week that we want to put into this list? All right, let's get down into the discussion items. But first, Arkisti, check in with you. Were you able to find that cash flow?
Yeah. Oops. Yeah. I guess I'm forgot to check my mic status here. Yeah, I did find it. As you mentioned, there's really not much difference between the previous month. The transaction volumes per user were up slightly. Number of users pretty much the same. Expenses were pretty much the same as the previous month.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Arkisti. I think in general, we're kind of similar to where we're at. I think as well, something I mentioned with Arkisti at the ops meeting last week is I think that and again, something I mentioned with NFThinker, I think that when we got into the cash flow, it's true that we need a certain amount of people, a certain amount of transaction volumes to make this a sustainable organization. And I think looking at those cash flows and being okay, let's work backwards. We need 5 communities. That would certainly work in a thing that we were working on full time. But since we're just we're all kind of working on this on a volunteer basis and we're not working on it full time, I think it's important that we need to kind of tighten our scope of work a little. We're going to probably do this differently than people do in a startup, because in a startup people are working on this full time and we're kind of trying to bootstrap this on the side of our desks here. So I really wanted to talk about tightening the scope of work. It's something that we mentioned last week, and I wanted to get a little bit deeper into that as a discussion item. We have fewer resources than a normal organization, so it actually behooves us to be more focused than a regular organization. I think you've heard me say this multiple times that the number one killers for most startups is lack of focus. Essentially, they run out of money before they figure out their product market fit. It's even more important for us. The nice thing about what we're doing it is a different game because we aren't paying people. We don't have as strong or deadly a runway as a startup might have, but at the same time, we're a community, so we kind of need to balance people's desire of what they want to work on with the things that need to get done. Something I've said in the past is that, I could work on this alone and it would take me forever to do it, right? Like it would take me to get to just the point that we're at right now with the product and everything else. It probably would take me at least 2, 3, 4, 5 times as long. So instead of taking 2 years for us to get to this point, it could have taken me 10 years to get to this point, right? And so the important thing we need to think about is that as we're adding new community members, we're looking, as we're adding new contributors, we're looking to help them contribute in a way that speeds us up in some ways. Okay, and I think people have found, anyways, so that's their desire or ability and willingness to work matches the kind of what we need to move the product forward. So just a couple notes on how can we reduce scope of work. One thing is to take a process we're going to do a lot and then reduce the effort. So automate it, template it, reduce the coordination. So for instance, adding new communities to the app or doing monthly rewards. If we reduce the amount of time it takes us to do things, we've effectively reduced the scope of work. Right now, it takes me a couple weeks to do the rewards completely, but what if there was a button that I could just press, right? Like it would probably be worth my time to create that button. Another thing is creating launch videos. So this is something that Rainus Coffee Crusher and the rest of the communication team is kind of figuring out. They've reduced coordination because they know what needs to get done when something new launches. So another thing we can do is, another thing related to that is reducing the multi-signers to 2-3 instead of a 3-6. Another thing that we can do to reduce the scope of work is work on one thing at a time. So I'm probably the worst culprit of this. I'm working on so many things related to BCard at once. And honestly, I probably just need to kind of pare that down, working on less things at a time. If you've ever watched that 70s show, Red Foreman puts it in this way: don't half-ass a bunch of things, whole-ass one thing, right? And I think that that's really important. On the communication side, on the partnership side, on the product side. If we spread ourselves too thin, we're not going to be making progress, at least not in a way that's actually celebratable by the rest of us or visible outside the team. So working on one thing at a time is good, or at least less things. Also work on smaller things. So iteration, doing something very small and improving it. I think Tom does this really well. As he's coding on stuff, he will usually just try to get something working, and then he'll add to it as he can, change it as he needs to. I think it's really important for us to think about how we can reduce what we're trying to ship so that we can ship things on a weekly basis, so that we can get things out there. We're in a situation right now where it's not like we're supporting thousands of users and we really need to be super careful about what we're communicating or what we're trying. It's okay. We could try different things. We can ship those things. It's not a terrible situation for us to iterate. And so those last 2 points combined point to running small, quick experiments. This is something that they tell you to do in startups, but again, it's even more important for us. A small, quick experiment means it's a very small scope of work so that you're able to get it done. And then you're able to run that experiment. And then you can almost immediately measure the impact of that experiment you're running. So for instance, on the communication side, you may run a campaign and see how many likes you get or how many conversions you get or something like that, right? On the product side, we may change a feature and then see how many people use that feature or how many new signups we get as a result of it, right? The idea of running small, quick experiments is exactly that they should be small and quick. So think about that as you're working. And don't forget, our ultimate goal is to create revenue for Web3. And that means we're creating transaction volume. That is our goal. If we create transaction volume, then we will be empowering these Web3 communities and we will be helping bridge a gap between Web3 and the real world because we will be strengthening these communities. And we believe that having these strong communities will draw people in to this world that we inhabit. And so I think that that's really important. That is our main goal. Tightening scope is more about how we work rather than why we work or what we're working on. So don't mistake tightening scope for our goal or anything like that. Just think about how you can reduce scope while pursuing our main goal. And yeah, that's something I just wanted to discuss. But yeah, any thoughts on that? Any thoughts on reducing scope?
I guess just in terms of my thought process about sort of being overwhelmed by your workload, if your scope is reduced, it's a lot harder to be overwhelmed, and so then hopefully you're keeping things in a comfortable, healthy context, right?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great point. Jost, are you meaning to talk? I can't really hear you.
Yeah, my
There we go.
indicator is bizarre this morning. Sorry about that. No, I just wanted to plus one that. I think, when you look at a task or a project as this big blob, it can be really hard to get started on it, and at least there is with me. And so yeah, I think breaking things down smaller, it allows you to have smaller, more frequent successes, and then that contributes to a better feeling about your work. And since we are such a small team, I think that's super critical. And I know we've all had our ebbs and flows with energy and burnout and priorities and stuff. And yeah, so no, just plus one on that. And I'm kind of back in things now slowly, and I don't want to sidetrack onto that at the moment. But yes, agree.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right. And there's also I mean, like I'll use myself as an example. I've been saying I was going to be doing this strategy doc, and it always feels like a big endeavor for me to do. So I'll do another email. I'll apply for another accelerator, and ultimately the strategy doc's probably more important. If I just brought that down, if I reduce the scope of work of that, just getting started, it can make all the difference, right? Just getting started allows you to have that quick win, as Dros was saying. And it is a virtuous cycle. When you ship something, you want to ship more. That's just something that's natural for people. That's like human psychology. And so let's utilize that to our best advantage and reduce our scope to even smaller and smaller things. I think it's really important for us to do so. Yeah. All right. Anything else that we want to talk about here? All right, so I would like to as well talk about the multi-signers. So this has kind of been a long time coming in terms of the multi-signers. The intent in our governance docs, at least, is for those multi-signers to be to be the same people who are the directors of the foundation, and 3 of 6 of those people are not. For whatever reason, they're not directors of the foundation, and so I wanted to reduce it down to a 2-3 multi-sig. I think that this will make us more resilient. Just as a reminder to everyone, there are 2 roles. There are multi-signers, and they are directors of the foundation, and then there's a project champion, myself, who's meant to be elected by the multi-signers from amongst themselves, and also is meant to get like myself, I'm supposed to get a veto on spending, and that veto is really meant to be more like a way for us to focus, because again, like I'm really a strong proponent of focus, and so I think that the intent. So that was just kind of a refresher, but the intent is to reduce us down to a 2-3. Does that make sense to people?
Sounds okay to me.
Any
Yeah, that was
dissent on
discussed
this?
yesterday. I think I agree. I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, ultimately, I believe there's only 4 people who have ever signed a transaction anyways. So going down to a 2.3 I don't think is crazy. All right. Well, I mean, are there other discussion items we want to bring? Maybe we can talk about how to tighten up scope of work in general. We do have a couple more minutes left. Is that something that people would find useful? It could help me to talk some of this stuff out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Christy, did you have something to say as well?
Well, yeah. Well, I guess it's sort of related to the scope of work because one of the things I was thinking about when you were talking about reaching out to crypto adjacent and even some other communities that are affinity related. I'm kind of wondering because like one of the like original or older propositions of BCard was like adding features into the card that's like like voting or using the tokens for different things, which that kind of stuff involves development work. So I guess my question is like, what's the best way, or how do we balance out like things that might come up that would be helpful in the sense of like adding functionality that's not really directly related to like increasing card spend?
I think that what we really need to how we need to think about those is that we should be working on only things that kind of directly increase card spend. And I do think that voting stuff, it could increase card spend if we find enough communities who said like, oh yeah, we'd use this card if we were able to do that kind of thing. I think in the short term, we shouldn't think about that kind of stuff right now. We should think about, hey, what communities can our current feature set work for, and try to make like one successful use case. And if we can do that, it affords us kind of like a little bit more leeway to do these things that we're a little bit less certain about, but we just kind of like feel that it makes sense. So like I think ultimately, like one thing I think in terms of our audience, we are aiming not for crypto natives. We are aiming for that kind of crypto curious audience. That's always been the audience that we wanted to go after. And the difficult part is that to go after that audience, you kind of need to win over the crypto native audience in some ways. At least that was kind of the hypothesis in the past. And so we kind of have these two audiences which have two different needs, and we're trying to reconcile them both. But I think that we need to understand a bit better that crypto curious audience. And if we can create something that works for them, and they don't even necessarily know they're using crypto, but it just kind of works, then we can start to increase the amount of communities that we're able to serve. So for instance, if we found out that like, hey, there is a couple of communities, they're using our card, but they have engagement issues and they want to get more people involved. And we say like, hey, what about if we try voting on things like new T-shirt designs or new initiatives that you're working on, and it will be based on how much of these reward tokens they have. Then we can basically say like, okay, let's build that using these reward tokens. We'll make the reward tokens crypto. We'll create that voting, which is basically just a front end for Snapshot or something like that. And then we'll say like, hey, give it a go. See what it's like. And then that becomes a potential way for us to add new communities, because we're saying like, hey, we tried this with this community and it increased their engagement for their whole entire user base, right? And so we can't do that yet. What we really need to do is show success, show a small level of success for our limited feature set, use that to more fully understand that audience, and then create something for that audience which can create a bigger level of success for them, and then share that, which will allow us to get more communities, and then kind of like continue that cycle. And what we really need to do right now, at which point in the cycle we're at, is we need to kind of test our current product against real world use cases and either try to make a success or figure out where the gaps are that we need to fill. Does that make sense, Christy?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Just thinking because I mean, there's probably like a lot of things that could be done uh, with the reward token or whatever that's given out to the community, and there's things that can be done to like make it valuable to the communities to get people to accumulate those, but like all that stuff kind of would require development work and other work. So obviously we have to be pretty smart about what we choose to focus on.
Yeah, completely agree. And this is normal in startups too. And I would say, in fact, in startups, people are often wasting their development effort on just things that they think or they feel or the founders feel are going to get them. Like they're using just pure instinct. Instinct is good. Like it's something that we should be following, but we should be backing that up with data. And we should be like kind of like taking that instinct and testing it almost immediately. And so we're really at the testing phase right now. We need to understand why users churn. We need to understand why users stick around. And it's ultimately I haven't put in that work yet. Right. And so I don't want to ask Tom, for instance, to go ahead and build something which is going to be a lot of work. First of all, I'd have to spec it out. Tom would have to implement it. And we don't actually know if it's going to make a difference. Right. And so I'd rather Tom spent the time that he's going to put towards this project on tightening up our core functionality to make rewards more durable or to make it easier for users for us to add new communities or something like that, rather than trying to create new features. The new features that we do create, we should have like a little bit higher conviction in them, especially since we have so limited resources. So one thing I mentioned before, which I think is worth mentioning again, is I said that we really need to create like a successful use case. We need to create like a successful, let's say, a case study. So there are a couple of communities. Hopefully, we'll have like something like 6 to 8 communities in the next couple months, and in those communities, these are the ones that we should really drill down and see like how can we make them successful. It's not it's easy to launch a community, okay? For us to launch a community, it's not easy for us to make that successful. So that's what I think the majority of the work this season should be put on. At least my effort is going to be put around how can we make these communities successful, because the only way that we're going to add new communities is to show that there is a way to success for those communities. So that's kind of what I'm thinking in my head right now. But does that, gut check, does that make sense to you guys?
Yep, it sure does to me.
And also, I'll just call out on people now because I think it's really important that we kind of align around this. I mean, what do you think about this, Arkisti?
Yeah, I agree, and I think if we can add a few communities and then focus on making sure that we're engaging with the users in that community and find out why are they using the card or why are they not using the card, and also I think as we add users, we're probably going to need to focus on making sure that we're giving the best support to the card users as we can.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
That's and hopefully there's going to be the need to engage with people and more people. So I think that's where we need to kind of focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Creating success for the communities and creating success for those individual users. Absolutely. Joe, how do you feel about this?
Yeah, no, I think we've done a good job of getting some initial well-known communities to be a part of it. I think that's pretty exciting because, you go down the list and like, oh yeah, pools together. Anyway, but since we are such a small team, and getting more usage in each of these communities, it's like we need to identify, I hate to use the word evangelist because it connotes other stuff, but basically a booster, a promoter, or set of promoters inside the organization that are just really excited about it and want to talk about it. And so giving those people some materials, whether it's just, the elevator pitches or something they can hand out at events they go to, whatever, you know what I'm saying? It's a way to leverage your team. And so where our communications, part of our communication strategy can be nurturing those boosters in each of these communities, and then through them, I know there's not a lot of time people have, but each of these communities know their own user base better than we do, of course, or their own community members. And so what is it that their community members want? And helping that, or having that kind of communication with a booster or evangelist inside the organization, and basically feeding them what they need to promote it, I think can be a way to leverage our work, and B, increase usage. And then the other thing I was thinking about was just daily, we need to up that daily transacting stuff and get more transactions, more volume, and more dollar value. And so just kind of trying to think more broadly about what are some ways that it can become an automatic thing where you're not having to think about it all the time. Maybe, I know it's harder to set up or to think about recurring payments on a debit card, but maybe it could be used in some cases like a budgeting mechanism. And so you put a set of things that you pay for. Maybe it's all your Web3 stuff. Maybe it's when you're buying merch or renewing a subscription or whatever. Why not use your BCard for that and keep it in the ecosystem? So anyway, those are some of the things that popped into my mind, but I don't want to digress too much.
Yeah, absolutely. How about you, Anna Thinker?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of spoke about this in our talk yesterday. Like, focusing on a few good communities is really going to be better than doing the scattershot approach. I think we'll be able to get deeper integrations within a community, and find out what it is that they need and try and build for their needs. I do like the idea of, I guess, focusing on who would want an affinity card who's not necessarily in the Web3 market, Web3 curious communities. I feel like people who are involved in crypto already, they've got that sort of that preconceived notion of what a crypto card should be and what they want it to be, and that's not necessarily what we're doing. And B, they're already familiar with on-chain rewards, with credentials, etc. And this could be an area where we could enlighten other communities to the potential of blockchain. And I feel like that kind of that strengthens our values and our value proposition, is to onboard people to crypto by showing them what crypto can do. So I don't want to jump the gun here, but I'm kind of bullish on Open Medicine Foundation, and even if it's not them, then some community like them. Hopefully, that could be a good relationship to spark up. But yeah, overall, I agree.
Awesome. All right, we're at the end of our time. Just want to say thanks to everyone for going into this with me. I think it's really important that we have these discussions, especially since we don't have the strategy doc that I keep promising. This is really important for us to be aligned on what we're working on, because it's only when we're aligned that we can actually focus up. So thanks for everyone for being here. I think it's really important for us to have this kind of check-in together. They say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Well, I think a voice-to-voice conversation or a synchronous conversation can be worth 1,000 asynchronous ones sometimes. And so it's great that we're able to have these calls and people are still coming to them. And yeah, I just want to thank you for all the work that you're putting in. I know I say it every week, but I really am grateful for everything that everyone is doing. As I said, it would take me forever to execute on this. And look, here we are with a card, and we're talking about how we can get more people to use it. I mean, we were not in the situation a year ago. So I think that it's really important to note where we've come from and where we are now. And if we succeed, we will be building something that has never been seen before. So thanks for everyone who's doing it. The work that we're doing now is kind of going to ensure that we're getting the end that we actually want. This is why a lot of these people got together, was because we wanted to create a new way of working at Bankless DAO. And Bankless DAO is no longer Bankless DAO, but I do think that spirit survives in what we're trying to achieve here. So thanks, everyone, and let's keep at it.
Thank you, everybody. See you soon.